It's not often you see something special come down to a specific price point that, if you are hunting, you can reach for. We have reviewed a few of the unobtainable DACs in the £55,000 category. The Ideon, the Horizon 360, etc. And talking of the Horizon 360, the successor to the LAMPIZATOR Horizon, honestly, a world-renowned DAC in the two-channel world, with a shorter lifespan than expected due to chip shortages that brought its life cycle to an abrupt halt. So what was to be done? Going back to the drawing board, LAMPIZATOR designed something from scratch, and that became the epic Horizon 360, with a cheaper upgrade path to the Horizon owners and a longer lifespan of a decade to come. But what was to be done with all the chips and the boards that were almost unobtainable and that caused most of the problems in its life cycle? Lukasz had a thought. Why don't we repurpose these, construct a cheaper housing, concentrating on nothing but the sound and getting it into the hands of people so that they don't fill a landfill somewhere, so that revenue can go back to the company, and so that those that can never obtain a $50,000 DAC, which is insane amounts of money, at a third of the price. Welcome to the birth of the Genya LAMPIZATOR, a sole heartfelt project to say thanks to Lukasz's mentor and a very important person in his life. Welcome to the DAC review. I'm Koji CO. This is ConvinceMeAudio. Let's begin. Okay, taking this off of the rack, I'm going to place it on the table whilst my chair is spinning round and round. I do apologize if my head is not in frame or out of frame. Right, this is the Genya. There's a reason why it's in landscape mode, because this is the depth of the unit. Full specifications scrolling down the screen for weight and width, depth and height. This is the width. As you can see, they say an image is worth 1,000 words. Well, you tell me in the comment section if that's the case. I am going to lift this and rotate this so that you can see the front. It's very basic, like so. The unit itself, I hope it doesn't hit my microphone. The reason why I'm holding it up like this, because if I put it on the desk like this, it won't be in frame. You've got a colored indicator on the front in that square LAMPIZATOR field with a button underneath. The button underneath switches the unit on and multifunctional for the input. So let me put this back down. I'm going to have to do the same thing for the rear of the unit so you guys in the real world and not via B-roll can see what is actually happening back here. So I'm going to support the unit and so make sure it's in frame like so. So here, this is the AC cutoff switch, voltage change here. This is multi-regional. Thank you LAMPIZATOR for not locking stuff out. I appreciate it. RCA, single-ended out, XLR balanced out, 3-pin obviously, and then we have coax via RCA, AES EBU here, USB obviously, and optical sling there. This is the Genya. This is the unit. As you can see through the sort of brushed aluminium casing, it's built very, very well, but it's not exactly pretty, right? And it's something you put at the bottom of the shelf on your rack like I did, and you just concentrate on the sound because that's what matters, and that's what we're going to be discussing next. Before that, just to give you some idea versus Poseidon Horizon, you can palm this. There we go. It's manageable. You try doing that with a Horizon 360. It's impossible. Try doing that with a Poseidon. That basically means for the money you're paying, you're getting a basic chassis. All of the money has gone into the guts and the innards of the unit, and I think it reflects that. The hardware, though very well designed, very tactile button, does not. For about 16,000 euros for the basic and 19,000 euros for the plus, which is this one, there are far prettier units on the market that makes your eyes water. Are there any units that sound as good? And ultimately, how important is the look when the sound exceeds and far exceeds the looks? Well, I'm going to tell you my perspective, and you tell me yours down below in the comment section. So with that, let's put this back in the rack, back on the WA33 and Levante and the rest of the systems, and have a listen. So for this review, primarily I have used the WA33 JPS Elite here for the amplifier, the Riviera Levante on my left and by my feet in the second rack, and also the HP A1 Maestro from Odoema up here, the Zähl H1, which is a brand new smaller version of the HM1, thanks to Michael Zähl for sending that unit in for review and assessment. And the interconnects have been obviously the staple of the channel at the moment, the Stellia Mark IIs. Using the Ideon stream on my right as the streamer, and also relying on obviously the Mac Mini for PC system-wide usage. Audiovana and Roon, Tidal and Qobuz are the main streaming services and music apps that I usually use. And the headphones, the staple and the reference here, obviously the HiFiMAN Susvaras. And the new boy in town, this is the Valkyria 2. Interesting headphone. Review for that will be coming shortly. Also the RAAL Immanis, the Susvara Unveiled, the Diana DZ, the Diana MR, and pretty much the flagships on the headphone wall over there have been interchanged occasionally, but predominantly the main focus has been the Immanis, the Valkyria, and the Susvaras. Power conditioning is always my IFI power conditioner. I like it the most out of the things I've used, and obviously the Super Quasar IFI power cables, which are just my favorite. They look great and they sound fantastic if such things make a difference to you. So no expense has been spared obviously for this review. And using single-ended and balanced on the Genya Plus have both been tried obviously as aforementioned. And with that, let's have a quick listen and talk about the foundational sound characteristics of the Genya from LAMPIZATOR. Okay, before we move on further, I'll also be comparing with the Ideon Absolute Meta, the reference for the channel. That's a solid state DAC, as you guys know. And if you're not aware, it's an solid state DAC. The Total DAC D1 and the XW1X DAC 2 will be thrown into this review for comparison's sake as well. The Genya is a slight leaning away from the neutral sound. There is character to this DAC. Before we break down the stage and technical performance, the tonality of the DAC is neutral, but there are emphasis in specific areas. It's very mid-range centric and focused. Not that the mid-range is forward, but it does have a very sweet, ever slight touch of the colored euphonic sound. It's a highly engaging DAC, primarily really strong for strings, vocals, drums, electric guitars. The backup to this is the stage. Extremely big, deep, but not only that, the cluster of instruments tend to come right in front of you, so that the singer is always intimate here when she needs to be, or when he is portrayed in such manner. The DAC definitely can throw the signal all the way back, like a two-channel system. At the moment, obviously, we're talking about the HiFiMAN Susvaras. And for auditorium listening, such as the church organs or live performances, I love Hans Zimmer in Prague 2019. An exceptional standout for such performances. It's very articulate and it's extremely capable when it comes to demanding tracks that overlay multiple instances where instruments reside within the stage. Extremely holographic, not only within the stage field itself, but each element of sound that resides within the stage can and feel like they have got room to breathe. I will not say it's one of the most textured DACs out there at all. The XW1X DAC2 for tactility and textural information beats this at £10,000 right now, I believe currently. Please check down below for the latest pricing. But for resolution, speed and technicality, this Genya here, I wish I could take it off of the rack right now for you, but the bloody thing is like this deep, will ultimately bring the super flagship 29,000 to 55,000 DACs onto your desk at a third of the price. Is it all the way there? No, there have been sacrifices made in the chassis and in the refining of the fundamental sound from top to bottom in the frequency response. But if you have never heard a Horizon 360, if you have never heard Ideon Absolute Meta, if you have not heard XW1X DAC5, the DCS varies, etc., this will be the biggest leap you'll probably make, and technicality wise it's on par with Wavedream Signature, taking it in some areas where Signature takes it in others, and I think this is where the comparisons will come in. Yes, that is an R2R DAC. We do not know what chipset has been used, apart from the fact that it's from the original Horizons, which were discontinued due to manufacturing, and they are some of the best chips in the industry, and it was due to the fact that they couldn't get any more. That's why the Horizon 360 was developed. So you are getting 85% of the way there. Yes, in this Summit category, a 5% is a very significant jump, and it will cost you thousands, tens of thousands. 15% will cost you 20s of thousands, multitudes of the numbers and zeros. Only your pocket will indicate if that's worth it to you, and chasing the dragon is never a good thing because you'll never catch it. There'll always be one more beyond the horizon. But ultimately, the articulation, resolution of this DAC is enough for anybody for the next 10 years. You can take my word away and pocket it. It will save you significant amounts of money if you're in this category, obviously. And the only limitation and problem is Genya is a limited run. It's only going to last whilst Horizon owners are sending in their Horizons for upgrade to the Horizon 360. Why don't we talk about a few tracks? The Dark Knight, the intro, those big drums, the boom, the resonance, and the decay. You do not lose any of that. In fact, when you're listening through these transducers here, the bottomless tonal density and thick lower mid bass and bottomless treble tends to bring the PA that the drums are going through in the live audience conveys a very large, enormous sound. Instruments sound size-wise very articulate and different to each other. So, the authority and timbre and resonance and decay of drums, 5 tigers out of 5. Speed and resolution. Let's take Animals as Leaders here, one of my favorite bands. The articulation of the bassist, the piano, and the timing of the drums. It's a very quick DAC. Not only going from this genre to electronic, you will be able to listen to electronic music without worry. For me, Poseidon was a very gentle DAC. It's, incidentally, I think it's about 10,000 euros more than this. A bit more textured, a bit more tactile. It's a very unique sounding unit. The nearest to that in the solid state field that I have found is the Total DAC D1. But it's slow. I can never listen to electronic music on that DAC. My brain feels as though it's always far ahead of the music. It doesn't sound right to me for electronic. This is an all-genre DAC. Let's do some quick comparisons. All right. So, bass, we have the Genya, 16,000, 19,000. This one is the 19,000 variant, the Plus, with better tubes in it and better upgrade path, but we discussed all of that in the specification section, so scroll back if you jumped to the sound first. Versus Poseidon, the Genya is more authoritative, quicker, and far more tonally dense and it knocks. But the Poseidon, for texture and for the timbral feel of the instrument, takes it. Against the Meta, I would say they both lag behind significantly. The only area where Poseidon takes it is in the texture. I think it goes toe to toe, maybe a little bit more due to the nature of the tubes, where texture and tactility, if that's your prevailing preference, that's what you would go for. But time alignment, authority and resolution, we can set Meta aside here. Mid-bass punch. I think it clearly shines here. And for impact, not caliber of impact, but for impact, it definitely rivals the Absolute. Maybe 2-3% behind on specific headphones and transducers, but across the board, it seems to do very, very well. Very well. And it's very articulate, very quick, very punchy, and very dynamic. Vocals have significant support from the bass response, so they do not sound thin. As you can imagine, in this category, all of those sorts of gripes and silliness have been etched away. This is more of a refined DAC, and the mid-range is to die for. I think here I will have to give them all 5 tigers out of 5. Poseidon, Genya Plus, and the Ideon Meta. They have different tonalities. The Absolute Meta is the most neutral. The Poseidon is the most textured and the most colored. Genya is right in the middle of the both of them. And it has the most significant, beautiful, articulate mid-range you will find under $20,000. In fact, I don't think you're going to be able to beat this DAC at $20,000 and below. I think it's the supreme king for tube-based DACs. The only alternate DAC here is the Wavedream Signature, where it's more resolving, just as quick, but you don't get tubes. You get R2R here. And it's very possible inside the Genya there is an R2R chip, we just don't know. I don't think such topologies matter when you get into these categories. The ESS in the Absolute Meta, people will say, oh, it's an ESS DAC. It just means they have no clue when it comes to engineering and how to put DACs together. All they see is numbers or the price of a specific chip. It's like saying, oh, it's just an engine. Yeah, but what type of engine, right? It's how you manipulate, how you deal with the output stage, the power supply, the filters, most importantly, the digital filters, noise shaping. With that, the takeaway is here. Genya is a lush, textured, not as much as Poseidon, but a textured DAC. Tactile, not as tactile as Poseidon, but tactile. Very quick, resolving, big stage, all genre bound DAC. The only gripe I would say for me would be I'm spending 19,000 euros and the chassis is at the bottom of the rack because it is what it is. You can see it on screen. It's built well, exceptionally well. It's just not Absolute Meta, but you're not going to be paying 55,000 for that, right? So you choose. They have put their heart and soul and the soul of the Horizon into the Genya, through and through. It's all about sound. And what happens when you put it on speakers, such as the Phonica Internationals here we have, these are the medium ones. I think this is where you get more for the DAC. Headphones can only go so far, but the tactility, stage and presence and holographic nature and the authority and enormous soundscape is something speakers requires. It really does well on speakers. I mean, predominantly this is a 2-channel DAC that we use in the Hi-Fi Summit category. This is where you will get the most, the absolute most out of this DAC. Vocals tend to pop. The singer seems to be holographically infused in the stage and comes alive if your speakers can do holographic imaging, if you have set them up properly, like in a studio environment or a nicely treated room. Hyper detail don't tend to matter when it comes to speakers as much as it does in headphones. What matters is the holographic nature, the stage, the presence, the weight, the drivability, the output stage. And this is where Genya shines on speakers. Using the Valkyria, you get more texture. You get more of a real sound. The characteristics of the Valkyria, as you will see in the review, brings you a bit closer to the speakers sort of sound, relying on more of the presence of being there within the mix. feeling the texture of the voice and bringing alive the space between the instruments where that was recorded, brings you into the song. But for that, you'll have to watch the Valkyria 2 review, which should follow if it has been completed. If not, subscribe and press that notification thing up there so that you don't miss it. And it helps us out a tremendous amount, pushing the channel over the 10,000 subscriber mark, so I really would appreciate it. In conclusion, should you buy Genya? I think if your budget squeezes this in, it's the only DAC you need for the next 5 to 10 years. Absolutely, I stand by that. Because beyond this, you're paying tens of thousands of pounds more for percentages and for a prettier chassis. And it's a limited run, using the chips of a $55,000 DAC, the Horizon. You can't go wrong. And first and foremost, my deepest thanks to GPoint for sending this unit in for us to review and assess. And if you fancy the DAC and you're based in the UK, GPoint will allow you to demo it in your house and you can make up your own mind about it. And I have to thank him because it's people like Greg, it's viewers like you, and it's the CMA Audio Lounge Telegram chat and my boys over on Patreon that allows me to do this job. And my deepest thanks goes out to you viewers, those of you who send equipment in for review, and there's been plenty of you over the years. In fact, my heartfelt thank you always goes out to Jez, Grant, Mo, and the others for pushing this channel beyond hi-fi into a place that, honestly, I, at the beginning, didn't think we would ever get to. And if you fancy joining us in the Telegram chat, all the Patreon information will be down below. Otherwise, a like, a share, and a subscribe is all I require from you. And a few comments down below. Do you have Genya? What other DACs do you have? Tell me about your systems. Tell me what enthuses you about music. It's not just about equipment, it's about artists. Tell me some bands you've discovered. Let's start a lively debate down below. Until the next one, here is the Valkyria 2 review for you to watch. The Total DAC D1 and all the other reviews are at your disposal on the channel. Until the next time, peace.